Liberia added to new U.S. visa suspension list. What it means and why it matters. What if one government decision suddenly made it harder, or even impossible, for thousands of people to travel, study, work, or reunite with family abroad? That's exactly the situation unfolding right now, as Liberia has been placed on a new U.S. visa suspension list, joining several other countries affected by tightened American visa screening and vetting procedures. For Liberians at home and abroad, this move raises serious questions. Why was Liberia added to the list? What types of visas are affected? Is this a ban, a suspension, or something else entirely? And most importantly, what happens next? In today's video, we break it all down clearly and objectively, separating fact from speculation and explaining what this decision could mean for Liberia, Liberians, and US-Africa relations moving forward. Let's get into it. What is the new US visa suspension list? First, let's clarify what this list actually is. The United States maintains visa screening and vetting policies designed to assess whether applicants meet immigration, security, and identity verification standards. Periodically, the U.S. government reviews how well different countries cooperate with these requirements. When a country is found to have systemic issues, such as incomplete identity documentation, weak passport security, limited information sharing, high overstay rates, or concerns about fraud, the U.S. may respond by restricting or suspending certain visa categories for citizens of that country. This is not always a full travel ban. In many cases, it's a targeted suspension that applies only to certain visa types, new applicants, or individuals without prior travel history. Liberia has now been added to this updated list, placing it alongside other countries facing similar restrictions.
This evening, January 14th, 2026, a State Department spokesperson said that U.S. President Donald Trump's administration is suspending processing for immigrant visas for applicants from 75 countries. Part of the administration's crackdown on immigration, but really a focus on the impact of immigration. The pause, which will impact applicants from Latin American countries, as well as European countries, South Asian countries, Africa, and the Middle East, will begin on January 21st. Tommy Piggott, Principal Deputy Spokesman at the State Department, said the following. The State Department will use its long-standing authority to deem ineligible potential immigrants who would become a public charge on the United States and exploit the generosity of the American people. Immigrant visa processing from these 75 countries will be paused while the State Department reassesses immigration processing procedures to prevent the entry of foreign nationals who would take welfare and public benefits.
Why was Liberia added? So why Liberia? According to U.S. officials, the decision is part of a broader effort to tighten visa screening and vetting procedures globally, not just in Africa. While the U.S. government has not publicly released a detailed country-by-country breakdown, officials typically cite concerns such as document integrity, challenges verifying birth certificates, national IDs or passports, data sharing, limited access to criminal, civil, or biometric records, overstay statistics, a high number of visa holders remaining in the U.S. past their authorized stay, administrative capacity, gaps in systems used to track citizens and issue secure travel documents. It's important to emphasize this point. Being placed on the list does not automatically mean wrongdoing by individual travelers. Instead, it reflects institutional and systemic concerns between governments.
Karen Tumlin, an immigration attorney and director of the Justice Action Center. Karen, thank you so much for your time today. But I want to ask you, because in the past, you've accused TPS revocations done by this administration of unleashing widespread chaos. So I'm curious, what are you hearing from your clients with this new news?
Yeah, unfortunately, this new news we're hearing from people very similar to what we've heard in other revocations, both of TPS and legal status, is really fear and confusion. These are individuals who went through a process and were granted temporary legal status by the US government. And of course, they don't understand why. Why is the rug being pulled out from under them when they've done everything the government has asked of them to comply with their responsibilities under the program?
What visas are affected? One of the biggest questions people are asking is, does this affect all Liberians traveling to the US? The short answer, not necessarily. In most visa suspension cases, immigrant visas may face increased scrutiny or delays. Non-immigrant visas, such as tourist, student, and work visas, may be limited or temporarily suspended. Previously issued visas are often not cancelled automatically. Diplomatic visas and official travel are usually exempt. Family-based immigration cases, refugee pathways, and humanitarian exceptions may also continue under specific circumstances. However, applicants should expect longer processing times, higher rates of administrative review, more documentation requirements. For many Liberians, this creates uncertainty, especially students, business travelers, and families waiting for reunification. How does this affect Liberians? The impact goes beyond paperwork. For students, it could mean delayed admissions or missed semesters. For business owners and professionals, it could limit trade, conferences, and international partnerships. For families, it may slow down reunification processes that already take years. And for the Liberian diaspora, it raises concerns about future travel plans, sponsorship of relatives, and perceptions of Liberia abroad. Many Liberians living in the US worry that this decision could reinforce negative stereotypes or create additional barriers, even for those who fully comply with immigration laws. At the same time, it's worth noting that visa policy is fluid, and countries can be removed from these lists if concerns are addressed. Is this a political move? Some critics see this as a political decision. Others argue it's primarily administrative and security-driven. The truth likely lies somewhere in between. The United States is currently reassessing border security, tightening immigration controls, expanding biometric and data sharing requirements. These changes affect many regions, not just Africa. However, visa suspensions often carry diplomatic consequences, whether intended or not. They can strain bilateral relations, impact public perception, influence foreign policy discussions. For Liberia, a country with historic ties to the United States, this move carries symbolic weight as well as practical consequences. What can Liberia do next? The good news is that visa suspensions are not permanent by default. Countries can be removed from the list by improving passport and ID security, enhancing data collection and sharing, reducing visa overstay rates, strengthening civil registry systems, working directly with US technical advisors. In past cases, governments that invested in documentation reform and compliance were able to restore full visa access over time. Liberian authorities may now face increased pressure to modernize identification systems, improve interagency coordination, reassure international partners. How quickly these steps are taken and how effectively they're implemented will shape what happens next. What this means going forward. So what does all of this mean? Liberia's placement on the new US visa suspension list is significant, but it is not the end of the road. It reflects broader global shifts in immigration policy, heightened security standards, and growing emphasis on documentation and data integrity. For Liberians, the key takeaways are: stay informed, follow official embassy guidance, prepare for longer processing times, and avoid misinformation or panic. This situation is evolving, and diplomatic engagement will play a major role in what happens next.